In this video, I'll show you how to prepare your computer for Flutter development. We shall install all the tools required for creating Flutter apps, and then I'll show you how to execute the code of a Flutter project on a real Android device. All the information that we need to set up the development environment is available in Flutter documentation. So go to the website flutter.dev and click on this link docs. Now click on get started. And then you will have the option to select the platform of your choice. I am going to select Windows here. Now the first thing to do here is to verify the system requirements. So we have to have Windows 7 Service Pack 1 or above. Then the disk space as recommended minimum of 1.64 GB, but this does not include the space required for the IDE and the tools. So I recommend you to keep at least 4 GB of space free for this setup. Now we have to install Windows Powershell 5.0 and Git. Now if you are using Windows 10 or above, then Windows Powershell is installed by default and you don't need to do anything. If the Windows you are using is below the version 10, then you have to install Powershell. So click on this link, then download Powershell and install it following the installation instructions. Then install Git. To install Git, go to this link, then download the Git appropriate for your system and install it. While installing, select this option, use Git from Windows command prompt, which should be selected by default. Now as we have installed these two tools, we have to verify that they are working properly. We should be able to run Git commands from Windows Powershell. So open Windows Powershell and run the command Git. Now you should be able to see the different Git commands available. So this means that the installation is successful. Now as our system is ready, let us proceed to the next step, which is to install the Flutter Sdk, which is the core component of the setup. And you can install Flutter in two ways. First, you can download the SDK as zip file from this button. You can click on this button and the Flutter SDK of this specific version will get downloaded. And then you will have to extract the content of the zip file and keep it somewhere in your computer. And the second approach is to clone the Flutter repository from GitHub. For that, you have to copy this command here and then paste it on terminal and hit enter. Now here is a note. You should not keep the Flutter SDK files in a directory related to the system, like program files or other system related directories where some special permissions are required for the read-write operations. So keep it somewhere else. Now as you have installed Flutter SDK, you can run Flutter commands on Flutter Console. But where is the Flutter Console? To find it, go to the directory where you have kept the Flutter SDK files, and here you will find a file named flutter_console.bat. Open this one. And this is the Flutter Console. So here you can run different Flutter commands. Try one for yourself. Try running the command flutter -- version. This will give you the information about the version of Flutter installed on your system. But we would also like to be able to run these commands from PowerShell and from the command prompt and even from the directories other than this one. And for that, we have to add the path of this bin directory to the environment variables of our system. Search for environment variables. Click on this one, edit environment variables. Then click on environment variables. Now you should see the different environment variables set on your system. Here you should find one named path. If you don't see one, then you have to create one by clicking on this button new. You have to pass path as the name and then the value. And to the value, add the path of the bin directory of Flutter SDK. Now if an environment variable named path already exists, then double click on it. A window like this one will appear and here you will find a button new. Click on it and then you can paste the path to the bin directory here. Click OK. Now restart Windows Powershell and try running a Flutter command. And this time we can see that we can run Flutter commands from Windows PowerShell also. Now we are going to try a very interesting Flutter command, Flutter Doctor. This shows us the defined components that are missing and required for Flutter development. So we have to run this command inside the directory of Flutter Sdk. So we can go to the directory, then keep pressing shift and then right click, and then you can open the PowerShell inside this directory itself. And now run the command Flutter Doctor. The output will be different in your case than mine because I have most of the components already installed. But in your case, you may see some of red cross marks indicating the missing components. And probably Android Studio is missing in your system. And next we have to install Android Studio. You can use Android Studio for writing the code for Flutter development. But if you are more comfortable with VS Code, then you can use that too. But if you are planning to create an Android app from your Flutter code, then you have to install Android Studio anyways. Because Flutter can be used to create an Android app, an iOS app, a web app, and a desktop app, right? But for each of the different platforms, there are some platform-specific dependencies. And for the Android-specific dependencies, we have to install Android Studio. So for writing the code, you can use Android Studio, IntelliJ IDEA, VS Code, Emacs, and you can find more information on this link, Setup Editor, inside Get Started of Flutter Documentation. And for creating an Android app from your Flutter code, you have to install Android Studio. And to install Android Studio, go to this link. This will take you to the website developers.android.com. Then download Android Studio and install it following the installation instructions. And now try running the command Flutter Doctor once. The output should be a little different than the previous one. Now it should display that Android Studio Android SDK is installed. So we have installed Flutter SDK, we have installed Android SDK. Now before we can start using Flutter, we have to agree to the terms of Android SDK platform. And for that, on the terminal, run this command, Flutter Doctor -Android licenses. Now all the terms of Android SDK will appear on the terminal, and it will prompt us to accept or deny the individual terms. We have to enter Y to accept the term and enter No to deny the term. You should review the terms carefully and then accept them or deny if you wish. I have accepted all of them. Once you accept all the terms, you can start using Flutter. Now start Android Studio and you should see a welcome screen like this one. And can you see this button here, New Flutter Project? This may not be present in your screen, and if you cannot see this, then you have to go to this tab, Plugin, and you have to install the plugin Flutter. So search for Flutter, then install this plugin named Flutter, and then restart Android Studio. And now you will have this button, New Flutter Project. So click on it, and a screen like this one will appear. Here we can see the Flutter SDK path, and you can change this path by clicking on this button here and browsing the appropriate directory where you have kept the Flutter files, the Flutter SDK files. Then click Next. And now in this screen you have to enter a project name and then the project location where you want to keep your project. You can select the appropriate directory by clicking on this button here. Then you can add a description and project type. Here select application because we are going to create an app. The other options are a plugin and package, etc. Next we have this field called organizations, which is important because when you proceed to publish your app to Google Play Store or Apple's App Store, then you have to provide a unique ID, which is also known as package name in Android. And the convention used is to provide a domain name in reverse order because the domain names are unique. This ID should be unique. So if you own a domain, then it is better to provide the reverse domain name here itself. If you don't own a domain, then it's okay, you can proceed with this default option and then later on you can change it. Let's keep the defaults for Android language and iOS language, Kotlin and Swift. And for platforms, let's keep the default Android and iOS. Now click Next. And now Android Studio is creating our first Flutter project. Now the project that gets created by default contains the code for a very simple app. You can find the code inside this folder lib. So here you can find a file named main.dart which contains all the Dart code that is responsible for creating a simple Flutter app. To see how does this app looks, we have to execute this code on a device. We can execute it on a physical Android or iOS device, or we can execute it on a virtual device like Android emulator or iOS simulator. Next, I'm going to show you how to execute this on a real Android device. So first of all, you have to connect your phone to the computer using a USB cable, and then you have to turn on the developers option. So for that, go to settings, then find the developer options and then switch it on, and then you also have to switch on this USB debugging option. Now if you cannot find the developers option on your device, then this may be hidden, and the way to unhide this option is different for different devices. In my case, I have to tap on the build number 5 times, which I can find inside the about phone, and then the build number, and then there I have to tap 5 times, and then the developer options appears. This may work for you, and if this does not work for you, then you can search on Google for the specific device that you have. And now you will see the device here in Android Studio. You can click on this button and the app will be executed, the app will be deployed on your device. Now we can see the default app running on our device. So this is a pretty simple app. We have a floating action button, and when we tap on this, the number of times that we have tapped on this button is displayed on this text here on the screen. With this, our Flutter development environment is ready. We have verified the system requirements and we have installed the required tools. Then we have installed Flutter Sdk and we have analyzed the dependencies using the command Flutter Doctor. Then we have installed Android Studio and we have installed Flutter plugin, and then we have created a new Flutter project, and then finally we have executed the code of the default project on our own Android device. Now if you want to know more about the default project, then I'll put a link to another video in the description.